one of the principal criticisms of public money, that, oh, it's a fixed money supply, the economy will grind to a halt and so on, won't be flexible, won't be dynamic. Nonsense, we can lend it as well as spend it. So in that case, we add on these two new money flows. The state lends it to, well, we don't want to lend it to any Tom, Dick or Harry perhaps. We want credit-worthy, what we might call principal borrowers. Typically a bank, and the banks could perhaps participate in reverse auction. The state could say, well, here's 100 billion new money, we're going to lend it to the best bids. Okay, you guys submit your IOUs and we'll choose the best one. So it's a nice free market way of doing it. It has a side effect that wholesale interest rates are set by the market, and so on. So don't get fazed by people saying that our money supply is fixed and inflexible. There's other ways of doing it. Obviously the state can lend zero interest to public infrastructure projects as well. I'm just highlighting this because it's something I've been discussing with Bill Still, who's on the libertarian ticket, and he wants some free market answers to meet his critics. Right, here's a basic operation. It's how the banks make their profit, among other ways. It's the main way they do it. So banks have this neat way of adding numbers to your loan. You know, you take out a £100,000 mortgage and you look at it in a few months' time, and if you've not been meeting all your payments, it's suddenly 101,000. Conversely, all the people who are making deposits with the bank, they get some interest added to their accounts. Not much these days, and the difference between what's added to loans, what adds to the bank's assets, and what's added to the customers' deposits, which increases the bank's liabilities, that's called the spread, and gives the bank a lot of its gross profit. It also, of course, charges fees and all sorts of other little niggly ways of getting money out of you. But basically the interest rate spread is their business model. The bank, as we've seen, have operating costs, same as everybody else, leaving a net profit. And this net profit is then distributed, some of it to the shareholders, some is retained, and banks, as they go on year after year retaining profits, that increases that shareholders' capital account on the balance sheet. The bank gets more valuable to its shareholders. So here's a schematic of what happens to a balance sheet when the customer pays interest to the bank. Here's the balance sheet before assets. Remember that that's all the loans and so on.